Burnley are one of the worst form teams in Europe at the moment. They sit bottom of the Premier League table for form in the last 6 matches. They're currently in the relegation places, and they're 15th on the form ranking table for the top 5 European leagues. But can I save Burnley from relegation? And straight away I see a big problem in the fact that we have zero transfer budget and zero wage budget, and we've already agreed to spend 15.5 million on Mike Tresser. So having zero money to spend is going to be a big issue for bringing players in. So I think my first port of call is to see if we have anyone we can sell to try and generate some money and potentially bring in some new players. So the first one I see is this boy, who's one of our best players, worth quite a lot of money, but he's only just come into the club. Then check to see if we can bring Weghorst back from his loan, but we can't, unfortunately, so he's going to have to go in the reserves. But judging by the team we've got, this is the formation I'm looking at playing. I think this is just going to suit the players we've got, and this is probably our best starting 11 at the minute. So we've got Trafford in goal with Roberts as wing back, Taylor on the other wing back, Ekdal as a centre back, and then Bayer. And then we're pretty strong in this position, so Jack Cork goes into ball winning midfielder, followed by Sanderberg as one of the central midfielders. And I guess Josh Brownhill, he's a bit of a Burnley legend. Amadori up top with, I think it's going to have to be Coliscio on the wing. He's probably our best player at the club. And then we've got Bruno Larsen as an inside forward, or Zaroury, who is only 22 and Moroccan. So this is the best possible starting lineup we could find at the moment. So with absolutely zero money, things wasn't looking good. And I knew we had to sell some players so that we could get some money in to bring some new bodies in. So to try and raise some money, we've been looking at selling some players. So we had an offer early for Cullen, who is a player I'd like to move on, and we managed to sell Gunderson, who is a bit of a club legend, but we had an offer for him. And we need to find some money from somewhere, so he's left the club. And with him leaving the club, that meant we could sign this chap here, Sergio Gomez, on loan from Manchester City. Obviously, Goodison was a winger, so we were looking to replace him with another winger. And this boy should be a good addition to the team. We are having to pay a bit of a lump sum for him, £1 million. But with him in, that just gives us a bit of extra depth on the wings, which we needed. And unfortunately, we couldn't find anyone to bring in or sell any more players, so our starting lineup was pretty unchanged from the team Burnley have got at the moment. In our first game, we played Newcastle, which didn't go too well, conceding early on to Guimaraes, just 3 minutes in. And then we put up a good fight, but then Wilson made it 2-0 on the 75th minute, which meant we lost our first game. But in our second game, we played really well against Wolves. Lyle Foster got his first goal after 7 minutes to put us 1-0 up. Quickly followed by Wolves pulling a goal back through Cunha. But then after that goal, something just clicked and we seemed to look like a different team. Lyle Foster was in to get his second goal, which was then quickly followed by our third just before half-time, with Taylor with an in-swinging corner. The ball falls back to him and he buried it in the top corner. Things were starting to look a bit promising for us. In the second half, we got another goal through a penalty. Cullen taken down in the box, which led to Brownhill, the club legend, putting it away to make it 4-1. But then, as quickly as things started to look up, we played Crystal Palace in the next game, and they took an early lead just before 10 minutes to make it 1-0. Followed by a penalty just 10 minutes later, Edouard scoring that. And then they quickly made it 3-0 just another 10 minutes later. And things started to look real bad for us then. The team that played Wolves had completely gone, and I'm not sure who this team was. Sloppy Crystal Palace defence managed to give us a goal to bring us back into it, but it didn't last long, as late in the second half, Eze got another goal to make it 4-1, closely followed by another one from Edouard to make it 5-1. So despite a great win against Wolves, the absolute hammered in by Crystal Palace made me start to panic, and I knew we needed to get some new players in quick. So I managed to find a loan that we could bring in cheap, which was Prados, who came in from Athletic Bilbao. He gave us cover in the midfield spots and the defensive spot, somewhere we didn't have many players. And then in our next match against West Ham, we went down 1-0 early before Ben Rama made it 2-0 from the penalty spot. And just before the end of the match, Kudos made it 3-0, just to make our start even worse. And then continuing on from that, club legend Josh Brownhill got a bad injury, which meant he was going to be out for up to 5 weeks. So early on in the season, form were looking pretty poor. We managed to get a 3-2 win against Everton, but we lost heavily, 3-0 to Man United, 3-0 to City, losing 2-1 to Chelsea, although we did manage to get a 0-0 draw against Arsenal. And in the game against Everton, we won 3-2, but we was very lucky to do so through a 92nd minute goal from Zaharovic. Here's the highlights from that game. So Taylor put us in front to make it 1-0, before Everton quickly pulled it back, Mikalenko crossing into Calvert-Lewin. But then we managed to make it 2-1, Gomez involved and Coleccio, our two wingers, made it 2-1, before Everton pulled it back again, with Danjuma crossing into Beto. And then in the 92nd minute, Gomez pulled it back to Taylor, who managed to get it to Zaore, who managed to win us the game 3-2. But then, as you can see, after that, we lost his next 4 games, including being knocked out of the Carabao Cup. And all that left us in 14th in the league, 3 points above the relegation zone. So form were looking really bad, but we had some winnable games coming up, and I knew these would be really important if we were going to save Burnley this season. But then after that, all the injuries started to add up, and we lost our 19-year-old wonder kid, Coleccio, for 3 to 4 weeks, as well as a lot of other wingers, including Benson, Zaore, Churanenlov and Egi, all out for 2 weeks to 6, some of them even out for up to 4 months. We then went forward a bit more, and we managed to pick up a few wins. Form was picking up a little bit. We beat Luton 1-0, Fulham 1-0, managed to get a 2-1 win against United, 2-0 against Brighton, picked up some draws against Tottenham and Brentford, but we did lose unfortunately to Bournemouth, and we lost 1-0 to Liverpool, including getting beat by Nottingham Forest, which wasn't ideal as they were one of our rivals. But we did manage to steal a point against Spurs. These were the highlights from that game. Spurs took the lead on the 55th minute through Sarr. But in the 97th minute, we managed to pull it back to 1-1, Bryn Larsen pulling it back for new boy Gomez, who managed to make it 1-1. All that left us 14th in the league, and that took us into the January transfer window, where we were hoping to do a bit more business. And the first player to leave the club was our first choice goalkeeper, Muric, who wanted to leave, and we couldn't stop him when Saudi Arabia came in with some big money for him. But on the plus side, that did free up some transfer budget for us. And the first player we brought in was Nathan Ferguson, as we were a bit limited in defence and we needed some bodies for that position. And we also managed to bring in Almeida, who was another central midfield / defensive midfielder we could use. He came in on loan from Crystal Palace. Palace had paid 10 million for him only 2 seasons ago, but he'd only made 8 appearances. But he'll be another nice addition for our squad. And then lastly, we managed to bring in Fossey Mensah, whose contract was up at Bayer Leverkusen. But after we got that money for Muric, we managed to bring him in straight away, and he just gave us another bit of depth in the defence. After all them signings, form didn't really change. We actually took a bit of a tumble, and we hadn't picked up a win in quite a while, other than in the FA Cup 3rd round. We lost his most recent game 2-0 to Palace, even though we just signed 2 of their players. Newcastle beat us 2-1, and we also got beat by Wolves 2-0. So after recent games, I was really starting to panic. It wasn't looking good for saving Burnley, and I knew we needed some new players in. But luckily, the board came through and managed to up my transfer budget, allowing me to bring some new faces in, as we now had 8.1 million transfer budget, as well as some money for wages. So we adjust that and we went shopping, and the first player we brought in was Courtney Hawes, who came in for 2.8 million from Aston Villa. He'd only played once all season, but he's a 3.5-star defender, which is what we needed. We then brought in Rayo Hatete from Celtic for 7 million, who, same again, is a 3.5 star with 4-star potential, £7 million. We did need more bodies in midfield. That was the one position that we was low in. And with all that, we had a net transfer spend of £99 million, not including all the signings that were done before I joined the club. But we only had 14.5 going out. But yeah, we managed to bring in some new players just as we're coming into the second half of the season, which hopefully meant we could fight against relegation. And just before the window closed, we managed to bring in one more player, which was Alvarez, who was a striker. We've got him in on loan from Sassuolo till the end of the season. He'd not scored loads of goals, but as you can see, form was very poor at this point, and we really needed to get some bodies in the door. We got beat 4-1 by West Ham, and then we didn't score for 3 games, including a 3-0 defeat by Arsenal, 2-0 against Everton, 2-0 against Man United, 6-1 battering by Chelsea, and then a 1-0 defeat against Manchester City. So things were getting pretty desperate. We'd only had 1 win in our last God knows how many matches, and things wasn't looking good for saving Burnley. The 6-1 defeat against Chelsea was a particular highlight of how our season was going. Things were looking bad. We conceded a lot of goals, including an in-swinging corner from Chilwell for Balashaidi, including Mudryk as well, crossing it into Nkunku, who made it 3-0. We managed to pull one back with a corner from Gomez, and Bayer managed to put his head on it, but then Nkunku made it 4-1 from the spot. Reece James crossed in to Nkunku to make it 5-1, Madeki made it 6-1. And yeah, that's probably the poorest we've looked. We hope to turn form round after that. We had some potentially winnable games against Fulham, Luton and Nottingham Forest in our next 3. And then against Fulham, we managed to take a 1-0 lead early on before Fulham pulled it back through Carlos Vinicius just before half-time to make it 1-1. Early in the second half, they made it 2-0, Carlos Vinicius again. At this point, I think all hope was lost, until Rio Hatete pulled it into Hamanda, the new signings combining to make it 2-2. And then Difo Koda Reed made it 3-2, and I did think the impossible task was on. But then, in his next game against Burnley, despite going 1-0 down through Tom Lockyer early into the game, we managed to fight back, and Rio Hatete played it through to Kalashio, who pulled it back for new boy Alvarez to get his first goal, and he made it 1-1. We were just praying we could get a win in this game, and after the ball was spilled by the goalkeeper to new boy Hatete, he made it 2-1, and we had his first win in a long time. And after that win, that seemed to inspire us, and we managed to get a 1-0 victory against Nottingham Forest in our next game, and maybe all hope wasn't lost after all. But then, after losing 3-0 against Aston Villa, that left us just above the relegation places by only 1 point. Then after that defeat, we played Sheffield United at home, who were bottom of the league, and we managed to get a 3-0 win, just to give us a chance of hanging on to Premier League football. And after that win against Sheffield United, we were 4 points clear of Everton and 4 points clear of the relegation zone. And then in our next game against Brighton, we managed to help ourselves to another point to put us a little bit clearer of the relegation zone again. Alvarez with another goal. He'd found form just at the right time. Ansu Fati made it 1-1 on 17 minutes. And then it looked like we were going to fall to another defeat after Estupiñán made it 2-1 on the 37th minute. But then Sanderberg on the 80th minute managed to win us another point. In our next game we played Brentford, and we managed to pick up another point again. Despite conceding another early goal, we managed to pull it back to get a 1-1 with this wonderful run from Sayori, who pulled it into Alvarez, and we had another point. All that meant with 3 games left, we were 5 points clear of the relegation zone, and we'd given ourselves a real fighting chance of staying in the division. We then took on Bournemouth, where we all but confirmed safety through an absolutely fantastic display, going 1-0 up after 4 minutes. before conceding on the 31st minute, making it 1-1 from Semedo. But then Gomez with a lovely cross eventually fell to Berg, who made it 2-1, and then on the 47th minute, Connor Roberts, who had been ever present for us all season, managed to make it 3-1, pretty much confirming safety. All that left us 5 points clear, with 2 games left. However, we did have to play Tottenham, who were pushing for European football, and Liverpool, who were near the top of the league. But then against Tottenham, we managed to do it after securing a point and confirming our safety for the season, also confirming that we had saved Burnley. We should have had all 3 points, but Tottenham managed to score late on to make it 1-1, so we had to share the points. And despite losing 3-0 on the last game of the season against Liverpool, we had in fact saved Burnley. We finished 6 points clear of the relegation zone. Even if Everton hadn't had their points deduction, we would have still stayed up. And here are some of the players who really saved us this season. Lyle Foster managed to get 7 goals, but Connor Roberts had an unbelievable season, being one of the highest rated players. Sergio Gomez did a great job for us in keeping us up. And Coleccio, who was ever present this season. And that was the team that managed to keep Burnley in the Premier League. This has been one of the hardest saves I've ever done on Football Manager. I honestly thought we wasn't going to do it at the end, so I'm really happy that we did. But if you want to see me save another team, and you want to leave a recommendation in the comments, please do so. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, please subscribe, and thank you for watching.